What happens when paradise turns into a trap? You go online, you see a house in Florida for $400,000. You think, I can afford that. You're wrong. That number is a lie. It's the bait. The real price, the one that will financially destroy you, is hidden in the insurance bill, the property taxes, the HOA fees, and the costs that no one is telling you about. Today, we're not predicting the market. We are exposing the truth. We are calculating the true cost of owning a home in 10 of Florida's most dangerous financial traps. Stay with me until the end, because the real numbers will shock you. Number 10. Cape Coral, the waterlogged wasteland. Imagine living in a city with more canals than Venice, where waterfront living was marketed as Florida's ultimate dream. That's Cape Coral. But in 2025, those 400 miles of sparkling waterways aren't selling points anymore. They're liabilities. They're death traps for insurance companies and financial anchors for homeowners. Here's the brutal math. Since 2020, home prices in Cape Coral skyrocketed 71%, pushing the median to $425,000. Meanwhile, the city's median household income is just $61,000. That's a price-to-income ratio of nearly 7 to 1. More than double what economists call sustainable. When housing costs rise that far out of sync with wages, a correction isn't just possible, it's inevitable. And the correction is already brewing. Insurance premiums here are the stuff of nightmares. In just 2 years, the average homeowner's policy jumped from $2,100 to $8,400, a 300% increase. Many residents are now staring down bills of $10,000 to $15,000 per year just for coverage, a second mortgage in disguise. For retirees on fixed incomes or families barely making ends meet, that's not sustainable. People are listing their homes not because they want to, but because they have to. Then, layer in climate risk. Cape Coral sits at sea level, exposed to storm surge and flooding. After Hurricane Ian's devastation, insurers have grown even more skittish. 12 major carriers have already pulled out of Florida in the past 18 months. Investors, who make up the highest share of property owners in Cape Coral, see the writing on the wall. And when investors dump en masse, they don't negotiate. They fire sale. That creates avalanches of price declines. Stories like Susan Martinez's are becoming common. She bought her dream home in 2019 for $285,000. Today, it's worth nearly $500,000. But her annual insurance quote came back at $11,000, more than her property taxes and utilities combined. She's selling. So are her neighbors. And so begins the chain reaction. So let's do the real math. A $425,000 home. Your mortgage is about $2,500 a month. But that's just the start. Add Susan's $11,000 insurance bill. That's another $916 a month. Add $5,000 in property taxes. That's another $416 a month. The true cost to live in that $425,000 house isn't $2,500. It's nearly $3,900 a month. On a $61,000 income, you're paying over 75% of your pre-tax earnings just to keep the house. That's not a future collapse. That is a financial trap snapping shut right now. And yet, Cape Coral may only be the opening act, because the next city on our list, once hailed as Florida's affordable family haven, is about to expose an even bigger mirage. Number 9. Port St. Lucie, the Suburban Mirage. What happens when a city sells itself as paradise, but the foundation is built on sand? That's the story of Port St. Lucie. For years, it was marketed as Florida's affordable alternative. Can't buy in Miami or Tampa? Come here. Bigger lots, decent schools, family-friendly communities. But beneath the glossy brochures lies a city teetering on the edge of collapse. During the pandemic boom, Port St. Lucie became one of the fastest-growing cities in America. New subdivisions sprouted on former swampland almost overnight. Between 2020 and 2023, the median home price soared from $275,000 to $410,000. A staggering 49% increase in just 3 years. But here's the problem. Those price hikes weren't backed by economic fundamentals. They were built on speculation, low interest rates, and a flood of buyers chasing the Florida dream. Now that the tide is going out, the cracks are impossible to ignore. The job market is flashing red. The local economy leaned heavily on logistics, healthcare, and construction, sectors now under enormous pressure. FedEx recently laid off 20% of its distribution center workforce. Amazon's fulfillment centers are automating rapidly, replacing hundreds of jobs with machines. Even the city's hospital network announced 500 job cuts in a metro area of just over 200,000 residents. That's not a small ripple. It's a bomb going off in the local labor market. And when the jobs vanish, so does the demand for overpriced housing. Residents who stretched to buy at $400,000 now face the nightmare of shrinking paychecks, rising property taxes, and soaring insurance premiums. Many families are already underwater financially without missing a single mortgage payment. Add in the fact that Port St. Lucie's infrastructure, roads, schools, utilities, has struggled to keep pace with its rapid growth, and you have a city buckling under its own weight. The psychology of the market is turning. What was once billed as the last affordable paradise is now being exposed as a suburban mirage. Prices inflated on hype, not reality. So the trap here isn't just the price tag. A $410,000 home might cost you $3,500 a month after taxes and insurance, but the real cost is the risk. You're paying a boomtown price, backed by a local economy that's on the verge of a bust. Every month, you're not just paying a mortgage, you're gambling that your job won't be the next to disappear. And if you think Port St. Lucie looks fragile, wait until you see the city that sits between two of Florida's biggest metros, a place where commuting costs, corporate cutbacks, and crumbling industries are about to collide head-on. Number 8. Lakeland, the commuter's nightmare. Lakeland used to sell itself as the perfect compromise. Nestled between Tampa and Orlando, it promised affordable homes with easy access to two booming job markets. For a while, it worked. Young families and commuters flocked in, filling cul-de-sacs and turning pasture land into sprawling subdivisions. But in 2025, that perfect compromise is unraveling fast. Let's start with the commute. When gas was $2 a gallon, driving 45 minutes to Tampa or Orlando seemed like a small price to pay for cheaper housing. But with fuel prices hovering near $5 per gallon, that drive now eats an extra $250 to $400 a month out of household budgets. Add in wear and tear on cars, tolls, and lost time, and suddenly the affordability advantage vanishes. Worse, many employers are demanding workers return to the office. What was once an occasional commute has become a 5-day-a-week grind, an unbearable expense for middle-class families. The local economy isn't strong enough to save the city. Lakeland's largest employer, Publix Supermarkets headquarters, just announced a hiring freeze. Amazon, once the golden child of local job growth, is cutting warehouse shifts as automation takes hold. And the phosphate mining industry, historically a backbone of Lakeland's economy, is dying under stricter environmental regulations. The city's job engine is sputtering at the very moment its population is overextended. Meanwhile, housing prices have raced far ahead of fundamentals. The median home price leapt from $235,000 to $365,000 in just a few years, a 55% jump in a city where income growth has been sluggish at best. Property taxes followed suit, climbing by thousands per household. Insurance premiums, already crushing Floridians statewide, add another $3,000 to $4,000 annually to the bill. For many residents, Lakeland has become a financial sinkhole. You don't need to miss a mortgage payment to be underwater here. Take Michael Thompson, a commuter to Tampa. His gas bill soared from $250 to $400 per month. His insurance jumped by $3,000. Property taxes rose by $1,800. He hasn't defaulted on a single bill, but he's already drowning. Multiply his story by thousands of families, and you see the outlines of a housing market ready to crack. Call it the hidden commuter tax. Your $365,000 house actually costs you $365,000 plus $400 in gas, and at least $100 in wear and tear every single month. The true cost of living in Lakeland is $500 higher than what you see on paper. Michael Thompson isn't drowning from his mortgage. He's drowning from the very reason he moved to Lakeland in the first place. And if Lakeland's working families are suffocating, what happens in the city built almost entirely for retirees? That brings us to our next stop, a community once called paradise, now turning into a nightmare. Number 7. Ocala, the retirement ruins. Ocala has long been marketed as Florida's sanctuary for retirees, a place of rolling horse farms, affordable homes, and a slower pace of life. It was supposed to be where seniors could live out their golden years in dignity, stretching their fixed incomes comfortably. But in 2025, Ocala's promise is unraveling, and the very population it was built to serve is being forced out. The numbers paint a brutal picture. Property taxes in Marion County have surged 45% in just 3 years. Insurance premiums, once manageable, have quadrupled. Retirement community HOA fees, those monthly dues that cover pools, lawn care, and security, have doubled. For seniors living on Social Security, which only rose about 15% in the same period, the math is merciless. The median home price in Ocala jumped from $189,000 to $315,000, a 67% increase since the pandemic. But this isn't a city of high-earning professionals. It's a community where the average retiree lives on a fixed income of $1,500 to $2,000 a month. That income can't absorb an insurance bill that skyrockets from $1,800 to $7,200, plus rising property taxes. For many, the dream of aging in place is dead. Take Betty Williams, age 73. She's lived in Ocala for 15 years, in a modest, fully paid-off house. She did everything right, saved carefully, stayed out of debt, built the dream. But when her insurance bill quadrupled and her property taxes jumped by $1,300, she was left with no choice but to sell. She's moving to Alabama, leaving behind her doctors, friends, and the community she's called home for over a decade. Multiply Betty's story by thousands, and you see the tragedy unfolding. As retirees flee, the ripple effects are severe. Local businesses, pharmacies, diners, golf courses depend on retiree spending. Without it, the local economy contracts. Housing supply rises as seniors sell en masse, creating downward price pressure. Younger buyers aren't moving in fast enough to replace them, especially with Ocala's limited job base. This is the cruelest trap of all. Betty Williams' paid-off home now cost her nearly $1,000 a month in insurance and taxes. On a $2,000 Social Security check, she's paying 50% of her income just to stay in her own house. In Ocala, you don't truly own your home even after the mortgage is gone. The insurance companies and the county tax collector do. And if Ocala is struggling under slow-moving financial pressure, what about the city still covered in blue tarps from the last hurricane? A place where devastation isn't theoretical. It's already visible on every street. Number 6. Fort Myers, Hurricane Central. Drive through Fort Myers in 2025 and you'll see something haunting. Entire neighborhoods still draped in blue tarps, streets lined with half-repaired homes, and for sale signs standing like white flags of surrender. This isn't recovery, it's retreat. Fort Myers, once the poster child of Gulf Coast growth, is now ground zero for Florida's unfolding real estate collapse. The hard truth? Hurricane Ian's landfall in 2022, with 150 miles per hour winds, caused more than $112 billion in damage across Florida, and Fort Myers took the brunt of it. Even today, thousands of homes sit in limbo, damaged, underinsured, or abandoned. Many homeowners are still locked in battles with insurance companies that paid pennies on the dollar. Behind those blue tarps is a shadow inventory of distressed properties just waiting to hit the market. When they do, a flood of supply could drown values citywide. Meanwhile, Fort Myers real estate prices defy logic. The median home price peaked at $415,000 in 2024. Insanity for a market where so much of the housing stock lies in flood zones. Insurers have all but fled. Policies that once cost $2,500 a year now run $12,000 to $15,000 annually, if you can even get coverage. Many homeowners are being told to self-insure, a polite way of saying, you're on your own. Take the case of Tom Rodriguez. He bought his home in 2021 for $380,000. Ian caused $140,000 in damage, but his insurer only paid out $60,000. Tom drained $80,000 of his retirement savings to make repairs. Now his renewal premium is $14,000 a year. Exhausted and financially broken, he's listing his house next month. And so are his neighbors. One street at a time, the exodus is spreading. The market can only take so much. Once those shadow inventory homes finally hit listings, the flood will be unstoppable. So the true cost in Fort Myers isn't $415,000. It's $415,000 plus the near certainty of financial ruin from the next storm, with no insurance company to save you. You're not buying an asset here. You're buying a lottery ticket where the jackpot is just breaking even. And yet, if hurricanes define Fort Myers, culture defines the next city on our list. A coastal jewel built on sophistication and wealth, but with an aging population and skyrocketing costs, even its polished image can't shield it from collapse. Number 5. Sarasota. The cultural collapse. Sarasota has long been marketed as Florida's refined alternative, a city of white sand beaches, opera houses, art galleries, and retirees seeking sophistication without Miami's chaos. Known as the Cultural Coast, it was supposed to be insulated from the boom and bust volatility of other Florida markets. But in 2025, that cultural shine is cracking, and Sarasota is discovering that prestige doesn't protect you from financial reality. Let's look at housing. Sarasota's median home price climbed to an eye-watering $515,000, nearly double what it was just a few years ago. That's Miami-level pricing, without Miami's international business base. Worse, much of Sarasota's buyer pool is retirees. The average age in the city is 67 years old, making it the oldest major population center in Florida. These aren't tech workers cashing bonuses, they're pensioners whose fixed incomes are being shredded by exploding costs. Insurance is the dagger. Premiums have surged 300 to 400% in just a few years. A beachfront condo that once cost $4,000 annually to insure now demands $16,000 or more, if coverage is even available. Many condo associations are discovering they can't insure at all, leaving multi-million-dollar properties effectively unmarketable. Add in HOA fee hikes, sometimes doubling year over year, and retirees are being priced out of their own paradise. The cultural institutions that once gave Sarasota its unique appeal aren't immune either. Museums, theaters, and opera houses rely on donations from wealthy residents and visitors. But with insurance bills and living costs skyrocketing, discretionary giving is drying up. Attendance is down. Several smaller arts organizations are already shuttering. When the culture crumbles, so does Sarasota's brand, and with it, property demand. Consider the condo market. Units that sold for $800,000 in 2022 now sit empty, unsellable, uninsurable. Buyers know that one storm could turn them into glorified fish tanks. Wealthy retirees who once bragged about their Gulf views are quietly cashing out, leaving behind glass towers with more darkened windows than lights at night. The trap here is the hollow asset. What is the real value of an $800,000 condo that can't be sold and can't be insured? The answer is zero. In Sarasota, you're not just paying a mortgage. You're paying top dollar for the privilege of owning something that could become completely worthless overnight. And if Sarasota, with all its wealth and prestige, is collapsing, what does that say about Florida's so-called safe bet? The next city is one of Florida's golden children. Diverse economy, sports teams, big business. But that confidence may be nothing more than false security. Number 4. Tampa, the false security. For years, Tampa has been painted as Florida's golden child. A thriving port, professional sports teams, a growing tech sector, and a diverse economy made it seem immune to the volatility that plagues the rest of the state. But the problem with safe bets is that they often hide the biggest risks. In Tampa's case, its sense of security has become its greatest weakness. Let's start with geography. Tampa Bay hasn't taken a direct hit from a major hurricane since 1921. That's over a century of good fortune, and locals wear it like a badge of honor. But meteorologists call it what it really is: borrowed time. Tampa is considered one of the most vulnerable metro areas in America to catastrophic storm surge. Experts warn that a direct Category 4 or 5 strike could put downtown underwater. Yet, despite this looming threat, real estate prices exploded. The median home price jumped from $295,000 to $445,000 in just a few years, a 51% increase, driven by the assumption that Tampa's luck will last forever. Then there's the job market. During the pandemic, Tampa became a magnet for remote workers and tech companies. But now, AI and automation are cutting into those very industries. Finance and IT roles, once the lifeblood of Tampa's new economy, are being eliminated at alarming rates. Even the port, long considered a stable employer, is automating rapidly, displacing thousands of blue-collar jobs. Take Jason Park, a software developer who relocated in 2021. He bought a house for $425,000, believing he was investing in one of Florida's safest markets. By 2024, his job was replaced by AI. Today, he's delivering food just to keep up with mortgage payments. His neighborhood is littered with "for sale" signs, as families who bought at peak prices are being squeezed out by job losses and soaring insurance costs. This is Tampa's false security, a market priced for perfection, but built on assumptions of endless luck and endless jobs. This is Tampa's false security tax. The true cost of owning a home here is the $445,000 price tag plus the unpriced risk of living on a ticking climate time bomb that everyone has ignored for a century. You're paying for a sense of safety that doesn't actually exist. And if Tampa, the metro that was supposed to be untouchable, is cracking, what about the city that has always lived on hype, luxury, and excess? Next up, a place where millionaires once fought for penthouses, but now can't even find buyers. Number 3. Miami, the Millionaire's Mirage. Miami has always been a city of spectacle. Neon-lit nightlife, glittering condo towers, and luxury homes rising out of the sand as if money itself could stop the ocean. For years, foreign capital and crypto millionaires poured in, driving prices into the stratosphere. But in 2025, the Miami illusion is cracking, and behind the glamour lies a market built on sinking ground, both literally and financially. The numbers are staggering. Miami's median home price recently hit $625,000. That's 10 times the median household income. Economists say the sustainable ratio is 3 to 4 times income. Miami isn't just a bubble. It's a bubble on steroids, juiced by speculative money and hype. Luxury condos that sold for $3 million in 2022 are now being relisted at $2.2 million, with no takers. The foreign investors who once flooded the market are vanishing. Chinese buyers are gone. Russian money is frozen by sanctions. South American wealth is chasing safer havens. Then there's the insurance crisis. For coastal properties, coverage is either prohibitively expensive or simply unavailable. One homeowner, Maria Gonzalez, inherited her parents' Miami house worth $1.2 million. Her 2025 insurance quote? $43,000 a year. Nearly the price of a new car every year, just to insure one house. She listed it at $875,000, but weeks later, not a single offer has come through. Buyers know they're signing up for a ticking time bomb. And let's not forget the existential threat. Miami is literally sinking. Subsidence rates of 2 to 3 millimeters per year, combined with rising seas, mean that by 2050, large swaths of Miami Beach could be underwater. Already, king tides routinely flood streets, leaving Bentleys and Teslas wading through salt water. That's not just inconvenient, it's a flashing red warning sign for the entire real estate market. So what's the true cost in Miami? It's paying $43,000 a year, the price of a new car, for the privilege of watching your $1.2 million assets slowly sink into the sea. The trap isn't that the market will crash. It's that you're paying an absurd premium for a property that nature is actively trying to reclaim. And if Miami is the glitzy facade cracking under its own weight, what about Orlando, the city whose entire economy rests on fairy tales? When the magic fades, the implosion could be even more dramatic. Number 2. Orlando, the theme park implosion. For millions of families, Orlando represents magic, the place where dreams come true. But behind the castles and roller coasters, the city's housing market is built on the most fragile foundation of all: total dependence on tourism. And when that foundation cracks, Orlando's magic vanishes overnight. The housing boom here has been surreal. Between 2020 and 2024, the median home price surged from $285,000 to $425,000, a nearly 50% increase. But here's the catch. Nearly half of Orlando's workforce earns under $15 an hour. Theme park employees, hotel staff, restaurant workers, these jobs don't support mortgages on $400,000 homes. The math never worked, but low interest rates and investor hype kept the bubble inflating. Now, reality is setting in. The first warning signs are already flashing. Disney has quietly cut park hours. Universal announced a hiring freeze. Hotel occupancy rates are slipping, the canaries in Orlando's coal mine. Tourism is famously cyclical, and when the next recession hits, and make no mistake, it's coming, Disney vacations are the first thing families cancel. Without steady streams of tourists, Orlando's economy craters. And when the economy craters, so does housing demand. Insurance adds another brutal twist. Even though Orlando sits inland, it's not immune. The state's broken insurance system has driven premiums sky high, thanks to litigation and fraud as much as hurricanes. One homeowner, Carlos Mendez, bought in 2021 for $380,000, believing he was building equity for his kids. His insurance bill soared from $2,400 to $9,800, while property taxes jumped another $2,200. Despite working 2 jobs, Carlos says, "The house owns me now." Multiply his story across tens of thousands of households, and you see a community on the verge of breaking. The Orlando trap is the massive disconnect between cost and wages. The true cost isn't just the $425,000 price. It's the financial stress of trying to afford a middle-class mortgage while living in an economy built on low-wage tourism jobs. That imbalance is a personal financial crisis waiting to happen for every single homeowner. The so-called happiest place on earth is on track to become one of the saddest chapters in Florida's housing story. But if Orlando's fate is tied to Mickey Mouse, the next city's disaster is quieter, deeper, and far more dangerous. Because Jacksonville, Florida's overlooked giant, is sitting on a catastrophe nobody is talking about. Yet. Number 1. Jacksonville, the silent catastrophe. Jacksonville rarely makes the headlines when people talk about Florida's housing bubble. Miami gets the glitz, Tampa gets the hype, Orlando gets the tourists. But Jacksonville? Quiet, unassuming, sprawling. And that's exactly why its looming collapse will blindside so many. Jacksonville is Florida's largest city by land area and one of its fastest-growing markets during the pandemic boom. Since 2020, median home prices have surged 58%, reaching $385,000. That sounds modest compared to Miami, until you realize the city's economy can't sustain it. Jacksonville's median household income hovers around $65,000, meaning the city is nearly as unaffordable as Tampa without the diversified job base to back it up. The biggest red flag? Flood risk. Jacksonville is the most flood-prone major city in America. The St. Johns River runs through its heart, and during heavy rains or king tides, whole neighborhoods flood if someone so much as spills a big gulp. Yet prices climbed as if water didn't exist. Combine that with climate projections showing increased storm surge risk, and you've got a city priced for growth sitting on land priced for disaster. Then there's the military factor. Jacksonville has long relied on Naval Air Station Jacksonville, one of its largest employers, but recent base realignments are cutting thousands of jobs, creating ripple effects across the city's economy. Contractors are already leaving. Local businesses that rely on Navy families are struggling. Take away those paychecks, and suddenly the demand for $400,000 homes evaporates. Insurance companies know the score. Major carriers, State Farm, Farmers, Progressive, have either fled Jacksonville or doubled rates. Premiums that once cost $3,000 a year are now topping $11,000. For many homeowners, it's a death spiral. Can't afford to stay, but can't afford to sell either. The commercial real estate market is also flashing red. Downtown office buildings are trading at 30 cents on the dollar. And history is clear. When commercial real estate collapses, residential always follows. Jacksonville's silent catastrophe is this. The true cost of that $385,000 home includes the uninsurable, unspoken risk of living in America's most flood-prone city. You're not just buying a house, you're buying a frontline position in a battle against rising water, and your insurance company has already abandoned you. The scariest part? Jacksonville isn't in the spotlight. It's the silent catastrophe, quietly building pressure while everyone's watching Miami or Orlando. But when it breaks, the crash will be deafening. So there you have it. The issue isn't how much home prices will fall. The issue is that the true cost of owning a home in Florida right now is an unsustainable financial nightmare. My advice? Never trust the list price. Do the real math for yourself. And if you know anyone dreaming of moving to Florida, send them this video. It might just save them from a lifelong financial mistake. Are you living in one of these traps? Share your story in the comments, because those stories need to be heard. And don't forget to subscribe so we can expose more truths together.